All right, so let's talk about Bellator 178 this weekend. And Stevie, I know how much you love rematches, but this is a round number 4 situation here.
That's right. 4th time.
Daniel Straus against Patricio Pitbull Freire, and I mean, does Straus tie the series at 2 here?
It's funny you should mention that.
Oh?
Well, that was something that I talked to Daniel Straus about, and you may be hearing or reading that interview the same day this podcast goes up. I had a nice 15-minute long chat with the champ, and I posed that question to him. I said, does it matter to you that this is going to tie the series 2-all if you win? And his response was, in my mind, I'm actually ahead of him because I won the second fight until he got lucky and choked me out. It just took till the third fight for me to actually get my hand raised. So for me, this is actually 3 in a row. That's his like mentality. You cannot argue with the confidence of a champion. If that's what he believes, then it serves his mental health to go into a fight thinking that he's already dominant and he's going to continue to dominate. That's the champion mentality.
It's like that new math you keep hearing about.
Well, yeah. He does admit that the first time they fought, there was no question that he got beaten by Pitbull in their very first encounter. Mm-hmm. But after that, he says, all bets are off. Because if you look at the second fight, I was beating the hell out of him, and then he choked me out. And in the third fight, I beat the hell out of him until I broke my hand, and I won.
So I'm thinking Straus wins this fight, and then by that decision, we're going to have one more fight. It's going to be like the final encounter, the fifth of a best of 5 series. They're tied at 2 according to the judges, or according to the record book, I should say. But I think Straus wins this one, and it sets up one last fight between these two fighters. I don't think this will be the last time these two fighters match up against each other.
Maybe not, but you need to wait a good long while after this fight. If Straus retains successfully, it's time to move other people into the picture. And I asked Straus about that too. And he said, these guys are hungry. I'm going to keep them fed. Keep them all coming. I'll defend the title. I'll take on anybody they send to me.
He doesn't lack in confidence, does he?
No, that's, I enjoy talking to, not only do I enjoy talking to a champion, but I enjoy talking to a confident champion. I like a little bit of swagger in a champion. I think it's a good quality.
Do you prefer an interview like that with a confident champion, or do you prefer someone who has way too much confidence, like, I don't know, Chael P. Sonnen?
Well, there's a difference between confidence and bluster. Confidence is when you know what you can do, and you go out there and do it, and you train hard enough to know what you can do. And then there's just straight up bluster, where you say a lot of things, you get a lot of attention, people tune in, and sometimes you deliver and sometimes you don't. That's Chael Sonnen.
Well, let's transition to the co-main event here. It's a women's flyweight fight, Stevie. Floor is yours, because I know who I'm picking, but I'm curious to see who you pick in this one.
All right. Well, we've got Ilima-Lei Macfarlane and Jessica Middleton in what I believe is the co-main event of this show. It depends on how it actually lines up when they actually do the broadcast. But in my mind, it's the co-main event because they're both undefeated. There's no champion right now in this division.
No.
And they would really like to establish who is next in line for when they have an inaugural flyweight title match. And in my mind, that's got to be Ilima-Lei, because not only is she a star in terms of her personality and her look, the way she finishes fights when she gets on submissions. We were talking about how vicious Thug Rose was, how perfectly applied that one was when she got the submission on Michelle Watterson. To hear Ilima-Lei tell it, her rear naked choke when she finished Rebecca Ruth actually wasn't perfect because she had to put it on more than once. And my response to that was, well, you might have had to put it on more than once, but when you got it on, she turned purple. That fight was over. I think Ilima-Lei and her 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu is some of the best we'll see of any woman in the sport. Right up there with Thug Rose.
I'm going to be devil's advocate, and I'm going to pick Middleton.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can understand why you're going to say that, because it's not like Jessica Middleton has been going out there and having bad fights. I mean, she is undefeated, but I just feel like, again, the whole 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu thing, I feel like her skill level in grappling is probably going to be at or above the level of Middleton. And even though Middleton had a very exciting back and forth fight with Alice Yager and a good fight with Bruna Ellen, who was not a slouch in submissions herself, I just feel like Alimale is fighting at a higher level right now.
Who was the fighter you were talking about? Was it last week about the rear naked choke and how they were modifying it with the wrist control?
That's Alimale.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so impressed with her. It's like she takes a very scientific approach to her jiu-jitsu and really thinks about the best way to do it and to properly apply it. And again, I'm not trying to knock Middleton that much, but I'm just thinking right now, I don't see her being on the level of Alimale. I feel like Alimale is a star, and Middleton would be getting a huge upset and knocking a little bit of luster off that star if she goes out here and gets the win.
Now, as far as this fight is concerned, two things. One, if you're a casual fan and listening to this podcast, thank you. And also, watch this fight.
Right.
This will be a hell of a fight to watch if you're a casual fan.
If you have any doubts, like I just said earlier, go back and watch the fight of Alimale and Rebecca Ruth and see the finish of that fight. And she has a really funny quote about what she was doing at the end of that fight, and I don't want to spoil that for you. So go to MMA Mania, read my interview, and she had absolutely hilarious comments because she compared herself to somebody that we all know very well.
Now, Ryan Quinn is fighting Saad Awad, but this fight's a catchweight at 165?
Yeah, that actually was revealed to me during the interview with Saad Awad. He said, I don't know if anybody has told you yet or if they've made it official, but we're actually fighting at a catchweight. And he told me that because I asked him if he was going to go back down to lightweight or stay at welterweight because he had just fought Brennan Ward at welterweight. And he's like, no, after this fight, I'm going back down to 155. I want to prove myself there. I want to get a title shot. I've never had a title shot in Bellator. So this is a catchweight for now, but I'm definitely going back to lightweight.
Well, is Awad the favorite in your opinion?
I think it's almost a coin flip.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that because of the fact that Awad is a great fighter. He definitely has knockout power. But I think Ryan Quinn is a little bit slept on because he's actually undefeated in Bellator's lightweight division. I know that seems odd when you look at his record on paper and it's like 13-6-1, but he's won all 7 of his Bellator fights. So the thing is, you just don't know what Ryan Quinn you're going to get.
So I've used this term before, and I want to get your opinion on it, but what about the term Bellator Resurgence? Is that a thing now?
I think you could coin that term. I don't know if I concur.
I mean,
with
look at Phil Davis. He went to Bellator and he reinvented himself. You've got a fighter like Quinn. He had a so-so record. He's undefeated in Bellator. Do certain fighters, once they get to Bellator, are able to not find themselves, but they have like a resurgence, a Bellator resurgence, if you will.
All right.
I just find it's some fighters are. How do I say this? Like, I'll use Phil Davis as an example. Like, he was up there, top of the top, but he goes to Bellator, and it's almost like instead of being a medium fish in a big pond, he's the big fish in the small pond. But Bellator is not exactly a small pond. It's just he is finding the tools in his career, at his stage of his career, that makes him that much more of a dangerous fighter.
I agree.
All right, let's move on to the last fight on the main card. AJ McKee against Dominic Mazzotta.
All right.
I got McKee winning this one. I don't know about you.
Yeah, McKee all day.
And twice on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this last show here, we got a lot of shows this week, and we're at the finish line here. UFC Fight Night 108. Main event is Cub Swanson against Artem Lobov. CV, is there a reason this show is a Fight Pass and not a pay-per-view?
Yeah, because Artem Lobov is just barely over 500 as a fighter.
And Cub Swanson's a great fighter, but if you put him in the main event, it's not a pay-per-view fight.
Well, if you put him in a title fight, it is.
Yeah, but this is not a title fight. This is a fight where Swanson is set up to win here to make the case that he's in the conversation for featherweight title shot. But this, I don't know, something, we talked about the UFC on Fox show last week. The ratings came in. It was the worst they've ever had. I'm not expecting a miracle rating for this show. The casual fans do not care about Cub Swanson and Artem Lobov.
No.
You need to put, if you're going to, remember, was it last year or was it 2 years ago when they actually thought, with fight night cards, you want to have a decent fight on here. You want to, get the casual fans even for these fight night shows. Like hell, the fight night here in Ottawa had Rory McDonald and Wonderboy Thompson.
True.
So why not have a decent fight? This card is lacking star power for the main card. For the main event, sorry, because there are some decent fights on the main card as well. Mm-hmm. But who do you got, Swanson or Lobov?
Oh, Swanson all day.
Not even considering Lobov.
Lobov's biggest thing that he has going for him is that he trains with Conor McGregor, and he's tougher than a $2 steak. Since you're throwing out the pro wrestling references, I'll throw one out as well.
I haven't heard that one in a while, actually.
Yeah, so it's not like he can't go out there and get in a war with somebody at or around the same level that he is and probably pull out a decision on points, but to beat Cub Swanson, I mean, come on, give me a fucking break.
Yeah. Ally Quinta fights Diego Sanchez.
Yeah, well, that actually is a little bit more intriguing of a fight to me than Cub Swanson massacring Artem Lobov, because Diego, talk about your resurgence. That's a guy that keeps reinventing himself and finding ways to win, even when we don't think he should still be fighting anymore. So I'm intrigued whether Quinta can get over the hump with Diego, or if Diego pulls another trick out of his hat.
Well, I like Ally Quinta. We saw him in Ultimate Fighter. Diego is former champion of Ultimate Fighter. So, man, I'm going to go Sanchez. I'm not as confident as I have been for other picks on this show. Like, I can see Ally Quinta winning, but I'm going Sanchez.
Yeah, I think it is kind of a toss-up.
OSP fights Marcos Rodrigo de Lima at a light heavyweight class, or light heavyweight fight. OSP winning this fight. I don't see de Lima winning this one.
Well, OSP got upset the last time out.
Yeah, so he's pissed off. Pissed off OSP. I don't want to fight him.
I wouldn't either.
This one here, the next fight, I'm really intrigued by is John Dodson and Eddie Wineland.
Yeah, that's a hell of a fight.
That's a fight that I don't know what the odds are, but this is a fight that will definitely change by the weigh-ins. Man, I want Dodson to win. I like him as a fighter, but man, how do I pick against Eddie Wineland? Yeah, I'm gonna go Wineland in this one.
I will as well.
It's hard because I really like Dodson though. Dodson's got the tools here to win this fight, but jeez, it's hard to pick against Wineland. That's what I'm gonna say about that. Now, what about Stevie Ray and Joe Lozon?
Joe?
Yeah?
I don't know.
I think Stevie Ray might upset the apple cart here and beat him. I think Stevie Ray could beat Lozon. Lozon, I think he's a name fighter, and Stevie Ray's going to use that as motivation to advance his ranking here.
You might be right.
Now, what about Jake Ellenberger and Mike Perry?
I'll go with Ellenberger.
That was a surprise. Mike Perry, does he have a chance here, or is this an Ellenberger basically showcase fight here?
Well, you talked about being pissed off after a loss, after losing that fight because his foot got stuck in the freaking cage. I think Ellenberger's going to be more than pissed off at this.
I tried to block that from my memory. That was not good. That was unfortunate.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do you ever see that in UFC?
That's like the case definition of a fluke. Freak
That
occurrence.
We had a guest on our show years ago, if you can check the archives, but they went into the cage and they didn't put the bolt there and they fell through. Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's something you don't see now. That's a fluke. That getting an appendage caught in the cage as your fight. No, just no. Prelims on Fox Sports 2. Tally's Ladies against Sam Alvey. That should be a good one. Now, what about Jessica Penne and Danielle Taylor?
I would go with Penny there.
She needs a win here.
She does. I think she'll get it.
Dustin Ortiz and Brandon Marino and Scott Holtzman and Michael McBride wrap up the prelims on FS2. And on the Fight Pass, Alexis Davis against Cindy Dandois. Why is Davis on the Fight Pass prelims? Is this because they want a named fighter for the Fight Pass?
It has to be.
There's no reason otherwise. Brian Barberina and Joe Proctor and Hector Sandoval and Matt Schnell wrap up the prelims on Fight Pass. I'm curious for the Proctor Barberina fight. I'm not sure who's winning that one. Like, that's a coin flip for me. What do you think, Stevie? Do you think Barberina Proctor is a coin flip, or do you have a winner in mind here?
I'll go with Barberina.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Well, that's all the shows that have taken place this week and are taking place. Let me try it again. That's basically the show this week. Stevie, what's on tap for Thursday Night AMP?
Just the latest on wrestling in New Japan and WWE.
So I'm sure you'll talk about Shibata, Akibono, and everything happening on Raw and SmackDown.
That's right.
No, we could talk about Akibono because
sumo fighter, yeah, he's had a couple of pro fights.
It's sad if you don't know what happened to him. He was placed in a medically induced coma after a match for a Japanese wrestling promotion. I think it was DDT. And it's whenever you hear the term medically induced coma, that's not good. I mean, we talk about combat sports on the show, and whenever someone has to get into a medical state where they have to recover from their injuries, or like life and death, basically. I mean, that it takes you a step back, and it really speaks to the dangerous element of the sport. Even though pro wrestling, MMA, what have you, these guys, they put their bodies on the line.